In this video, I'm going to show you how to put together a N-scale tank farm using paper printout buildings, and I'm also going to put a light in the main building, plus lots of hints about how you put these buildings together. There are lots of sites on the internet that sell these plans. You can try to find some on eBay, or I got mine from modelrailroadlayoutplans.com. Here's what the plans look like when I got them printed out. On the lower left is the shed of the pump house. Above that is the tank body. Near to the right is a tank roof. Below that is some sort of generic sign, and then a shed roof. I threw away the generic sign and added my own Bob's Big Oil on the body. I use Photoshop to do this. I printed out the building on a sheet of regular glossy photo paper. I made 2 copies. With the N scale, you can get 2 copies of everything on one sheet. And then for tools, I used a sharp X-Acto knife to cut out the fine details, and then a regular utility knife for everything else. I used a square and straight edge to make sure everything was squared up before I made the cuts. That made it simpler. Here you see I'm getting ready to make a cut. And in this way, just continue on until all the parts are cut out, all the pieces are cut out. So here's the building. Be sure to score at all the corners, but don't cut all the way through, and leave a white edge on the end for gluing. So here's the pieces for the main shed. I made a black building in Photoshop and then drew in the mullions, and I printed this out on clear transparency film. This would make the windows, and the black parts would help keep the light from shining through the building. The inner black walls are placed in position, then glued with drops of super glue. Start with one side of the window, put in a couple drops, make sure it's positioned correctly. And then glue the other side. When you have that done right, get the other half of the black walls and glue them in position. When you're done, all 4 walls will have the inside blackened walls lining them. I use an aluminum angle to help square up the final walls when I put them together. For this I use a little bit of Elmer's glue or something similar. This is generic Elmer's glue. Put on a drop or two, and then spread it around with a toothpick. Make sure you have just a thin coat left. Then use the aluminum angle to square up the edge, the corners, and use clothespins to hold it while it dries. I like to use the Elmer's glue here because it doesn't tend to stick to the aluminum. If we use super glue, it probably would have dribbled out and stuck. I cut several pieces of cardboard to fit just inside the assembly. The bottom ones I drilled a 1/4 inch hole in, and everything was put together with super glue. Just a few drops of super glue would hold it. Here I'm putting in the upper piece. It should be a very tight fit, but go in. Once it's down, I make sure it's pushed up to the correct position right along the edge. And then put in a second piece. Actually, you could probably get away with just one, but I use two. And then super glue all the joints. Just put in a drop, it'll be sucked up by the cardboard. And the only thing left is to glue on the roof. And again, just use a little bit of super glue to do this around all the edges. Print out a concrete gray base with grid marks for the expansion joints and glue that to a 1/4 inch foam board. Drill a hole in it to match the hole in the building so you can line it up. Then cut two 1 1/8 inch dowels to the correct size. The base was glued down in position on the layout using caulking. You can use just about anything here. Put down a thin joint of caulk. Put it in position, put the assembly in position where I wanted it along the railroad. And then weighted that down with a block such that it is leveled exactly. the dowel to an appropriate length. I use 2 inches using a miter box like this. Cut the 2 paper tank bodies to fit the wooden cylinders that you cut previously. Use contact cement to glue the 2 paper bodies, tank bodies, to the wooden cylinders. Then use Elmer's glue to glue the tops of the tanks to the bodies. Here's what I use to power the LED lights. Be sure to put in a 1K to 10K dropping resistor to limit the current. And I usually run these at about 9 volts. Here's the final assembly sitting in my railroad. You can see the light clearly. For this second version of the tank, I made the top a little bit bigger, slid it, folded it back, and glued it to itself.